So, sir, first of all, lovely presentation. It's like the first time I've seen something like that. First time ever.
So, was it your first semester?
The planning and everything about every city, it was fantastic. So, I want to talk about our city first, right? And thank you to grow. Right? So, our perspective from the BMS perspective, we offer a lot of criticism and a lot of, we appreciate also.
Right.
That's not our perspective. Very uneducated and very bare bones. So, what about, I want to hear your perspective on, the positives and negatives of Bangalore and its city planning.
Well, so the kinds of pressures that cities have in India and probably a lot of the global south, South Asia or China or the like, these are unusual pressures. So for someone like me who's educated abroad, who didn't have an urbanism degree, well, it's difficult to apply some of those lessons in a city where the pressures are so intense. Migration and somebody coming to this gym. So that's an excuse one can use to say that that's the reason why the city struggles to house its people and figure out how to deal with infrastructure or the factor. Bangalore has suffered a lot because of its own sort of rapid growth.
Yeah.
But it has also suffered because of the lack of foresight that it's easy to say in hindsight, but that's really the reason why we're struggling. So I think there have been some successes, and one of the great successes is, of course, the setting up of the metro, of the ring roads to some extent. The water management in the city is getting better as we speak. I mean, right now there is a crisis, but I think they have decentralized. There is a way forward. And there's a wonderful lecture by Mr. Vishwanath from the Sparto Biome, who talks about these strategies by which wastewater is being regenerated from use for farming and for food. So all of those clever things are going on, but there's a long way to go, and I think these pressures have made it difficult to do a good copy paste from the West ideas of how you deal with urbanity and out of centers.
How do you think we're doing compared to other things?
I think we're doing badly. I mean, but then the reason is its own sort of success is its own problem. I think the great examples from South Korea particularly, and China, maybe some of those things are difficult to do here, but there are great examples for how extremely dense and extremely fast-growing cities can deal with housing, their population and transporting people back and forth to work. I mean, these two things, and then handling all of the waste and all of that, it's easier by. Yeah. It's an unusual problem. It's something that we are grappling with. Hopefully, there will be some way forward. Then I think at the heart of the problem is the fact that, this may be on YouTube, but the fact is that political parties have seen the city as an unending supply of money for their kittings. So it is in their best interest that some of these things persist, that it generates then a constant source of income. And then that money, of course, they put into the hinterland, which gets them a lot more votes and whatever. So the hinterland is improving, but the cities are dying, because the cities are just not getting with any attention they need. I really have to talk more. So I have another 8 minutes.
It's like I'm in 5th semester now, which is practically halfway through.
Yes.
And even urbanization in general is such a vast topic, and as students we still fail to understand the idea. Like this year's architecture design, we have multiple different public spaces which we all are in different ways. Like for me personally, I'm working on a learning center, someone is working on hotel, and some of them higher desktop museums. But even as a student, I've seen we focus only on our project. We are going I'm building a learning center in this plot of land. So when you were talking in your presentation today, I felt like you had this topic where you're how a structure has to work in an urban setting. So as students, how do we start thinking in that mindset? How do we not only think, this is my plot, this is where I'm designing? How do I incorporate how I'm looking at it in an urban context? Because I think it's quite vast and very vast topic to come up.
Yeah, I think that there are many layers that one has to look at when you're looking at the context. And as an architect student, maybe the thing that you focus on is the formal, the kind of, what you see in terms of the physical form of your neighbor in which you're building. What does that street look like? What are your neighbors like in terms of their formal arrangement? And you respond to that.
Yeah.
Of course, when I mean what I showed you today is a lot of that. I mean, a lot of Fred Coulter's buildings are that. They respond to the formal arrangement of their context and then create ways in which to improve that, to create open space or to define open space, etc. So that could be, that doesn't take a very sophisticated technical background. It is basically just to be able to observe, document, and then respond. So if you can, first of all, is not to make the plan only go per side. Make the plan so that you have a little bit of your context drawn up in your sections as well. Try to incorporate what the other buildings are like, how they meet the street, how far they are from your building. So that when you're drawing your project, you're always aware of where your neighbors are, what their perimeters are like, what the shape of the open space around your site is like, so that you can make your design as a response to these physical conditions around me. So I think that is easier to do. Of course, there are thousands of other layers one can look at through the way we use space or technical things like the services are handled and lighting is managed or privacy and security are orchestrated. And these are all, as you maybe do a master's degree or as you go as a professional, you start getting sensitive to things that may be beyond just the physical conditions. But as a young architecture student, I think start with the physical, to document and register the physical conditions first, to make sure you know what your surrounding is like physically. Where are the trees? What's the street like? What are the elevations of the buildings that are around you? So like in Moneo's case, he's done all of that. He knows what the datums are in all of the other buildings. And so he starts making his building as a response to that. So since absolutely, it's a new building, but it has this real sort of coherence about it, and yet we say we can do something more beyond that, which is registering something that is hidden in that context, and this idea of lack of agency or lack of real democracy, that he's putting is a commentary on that. So now he's stepped up over the physical, and he's trying to respond to something that is latent or missing. To quite how that makes sense.
Yeah, that's because for us this topic is very new as well. So your presentation helped a lot today. Even when I was a student, I could see what we are missing. Even when you spoke about the VIC, I noticed after that I went and searched a little bit about it. So I saw that there were a lot of these open and semi-public and public space, and it's caters to a lot of events and all. So even I wanted to ask how do you maintain this balance? There's so much openness in the structure. How do you maintain such balance in this openness and providing a quiet zone in that?
What do you mean when you say quiet zone?
Something with a more quiet and intimate layout, something more private within the structure itself.
So maybe the thing to do is to visit. You should visit the BIC and see if it gives you that variety. Yes, you feel that there are places within the building that are open for bigger communal gathering, and places that have a different scale that allow you a more intimate and just you and your friends. You don't try to do that in public space, that you give both kinds of situations, that you modulate the scale so that there are places which feel very public and open, but there are also other places which have a different scale and maybe a different quality of light. Yes. IIM is, again, I don't know if you've been, but you've been. Yeah, IIM has a great variety of, it would be a great case study to look at that, all of the public areas, and to start, cataloging them in terms of their scale and sense of enclosure, sense of intimacy.
Yeah, even if you go as a group, you can hire public, but even if you go as a individual, you will have your own.
You can find a place for that too, yes.
Can understand, because even the lighting and all, even the ceiling height is not.
That's what I mean when I say scale, that by modulating the ceiling heights, the widths, so the thing about history, and when you study history, a lot of us when we were in college, we like history, and we don't see the point of doing history. But what history gives you is actually a set of, it's like a cheat sheet that if I really like a building, I can measure it all up, and I then have in my bones the arithmetic that will give me the same sensation. It's like I'm copying and nobody knows I'm copying. I'm looking at, Doshing or whoever, and I'm channeling those dimensions and lapsing the scale because I've drawn it and I know that it's a 7 meter by 7 meter or 4.2 by 3.6 or whatever it is that which is why the modular and all of these are all tricks that architects are sort of trying to fall back on these familiar dimensions that give me enclosure of certain qualitude. So the reason to look at history is, one, to understand how Korea modulates scale, what are the dimensions he uses, how I feel great in the space. This is just what I like. I can document it and I have it now. It's mine. I can deploy it in a project of mine and get the same sensation out of it, or they get the same quality of light. So I think history gives us that armature which never can help you do what is appropriate. Yeah. I said that is it. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Sorry, Marina.
That's
I just know what you. Yeah. And all the best. Just